So there's been a lot going on with this whole Joe Rogan Spotify misinformation story. We've been following it. Joni Mitchell and Nils Lofgren from Springsteen's E Street Band have joined Neil Young in demanding their music be removed from Spotify because of podcasts on the platform like Joe Rogan's that they say spread COVID misinformation. So we also have Harry and Meghan. They have also expressed their concern. The two have a huge deal to produce content for Spotify, which is reportedly worth $25 million.
When is that happening?
Soon.
Okay.
Now,
25 million, you think you get around to that?
Maybe they're taking their time so they can produce quality content.
Well, it's been about years now.
All right. Now, Joe Rogan is finally responding to all of this. He posted a 10-minute video to Instagram. Some of you may have seen it, but here's just some of what he said.
I'm not trying to promote misinformation. I'm not trying to be controversial. I've never tried to do anything with this podcast other than just talk to people. My pledge to you is that I will do my best to try to balance out these more controversial viewpoints with other people's perspectives so we can maybe find a better point of view.
What do you think of Joe Rogan's response?
I thought it was great. Listen, I listen to Joe Rogan again with discernment. He puts out so much content. They're 4 hours long. You don't have time in a day to listen to all that, right? So when I see, I'm like, oh, I'm interested in this person. Oh, Kanye's going to be on. I want to listen to that one, right? So I have discernment. I listened to the one that he did with Jordan Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even get to the part where he talked about black skin or how, because I was like, this guy.
I didn't get there either.
Me neither. I'm like, this guy is so far right. I can't even listen to his opinion. Joe Rogan does a good job balancing that out. Does he with COVID misinformation? Perhaps not, right? That's why he's in a little bit of hot water. But he does do a good job of looking at the other side. I try to do that for this very same show, and I get some of the same response Joe Rogan does. Obviously not with that mass numbers, but Joe Rogan's podcast on average per episode gets 11 million listeners, okay? If you go to CNN, and it was just at the bottom of the list, CNN gets 800,000.
Right.
Okay? So he has a much, much higher, stronger voice than anything on cable television, right? Why aren't we looking into maybe Joe Rogan's onto something here instead of getting him banned because you disagree with what he's saying? That's where I'm confused. Networks will listen to strangers off the street that write them in on Twitter, but they won't look at the numbers? It baffles me.
And I just want to say very quickly, I'm glad Joe Rogan isn't gone. I want a Joe Rogan out there. I like freedom of speech, meaning I like speech I don't like or I don't agree. So the KKK is allowed to march. The Nazis in Skokie, Illinois are allowed to march because that is what I mean when I say freedom of speech. For me, the difference is, and this has always been our disagreement, is as soon as Joe Rogan had people like Dr. Malone on who said we were all being hypnotized, he moved from freedom of speech to me to what I consider unprotected speech. It's yelling fire in a movie theater. It's dangerous. It's clear and present danger. So to me, that medical misinformation very specifically was the only part of Joe Rogan I didn't really like. I'm fine with Joe Rogan, but you gotta have a disclaimer or some kind of rule. Spotify had none. They lost $4 billion in stocks, and guess what? Now they're changing the rules.
And Al, before you chime in, I just want to read to our viewers and to you all what Spotify did, because they did respond to this controversy. So over the weekend, the Spotify CEO announced that the company will add, to your point, Tori, content advisories to any podcast episode that includes a discussion about COVID-19. They also published their platform policies for the first time. Is this enough, Al?
It's a good start. I think it's a good start rather than stonewalling. We've seen some companies that'll say, we do what we want, stay out of our affairs. We've seen how that's worked out. Some companies, Jeopardy, for example, have kind of, bowed to public pressure, and we've seen how that's worked out. I think the bigger thing, and it didn't hit me, Jeff, until you were talking. You were like, I listen to some stuff and I don't. And I was like, well, you're a grown man. We're grown men. You have a son, you have responsibilities. I started thinking about like 19-year-old
college kids.
Yeah, yep. College kids. Oh, and we had positive male influences. If you were a kid that grew up without a dad, without that big brother figure,
that's when it
Joe
gets
Rogan
dangerous.
is into weed, karate, and science. That's what every 19-year-old wants to be. And he's that. So he has a deeper level of influence than even somebody with a big market, because he's more family than anything else to, I think, a lot of people. So again, no one wants him canceled. Please miss us with that. Talk all you
Exactly,
want.
exactly.
The only thing is when you start talking about public health in a country, Sam, that has not everybody is insured. Let's just leave it at that. I think it's 1/6 of Americans in a country of 400 million people. It's a lot of folks. So when you start giving medical information,
Right.
you have to know that a lot of people are taking your information with no health insurance. So it's a deeper level.
I think this is going to end up being a good thing. I really do. I think the Spotify's, everybody needs to catch up. All the podcasts need to catch up with broadcast. Now, to your point, Jeff, you said 11 million people listen to him. In my opinion, that means all the more there needs to be regulation. I don't mean regulation to the point where it's a slippery slope and you're losing freedom of speech or you're calling for cancel culture. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying when it does come to public health, like you said, there needs to make sure that facts are presented. Like if we mispresented something, I mean, we have a researcher here that's going to correct us, and then we need to make sure that we come back after the commercial and we correct ourselves.
Exactly.
That should happen on podcasts, and so many people are turning away from broadcasts and they're going to podcasts. It's a new world. We got to catch up with the
Do you have to be part of
times.
the gangs of New York to try to cancel Joe Rogan?
I don't know how you do that.
Can we get the pictures of Joni Mitchell and all those guys back?
Were they
with
all
those
like
black
gangs of New
hats?
York?
Yeah,
They
I
look
thought
like they were
about
in
that.
gangs in New York.
It's
They're so
amazing.
cool.
I want one of those hats.
No, you don't.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Talk about militia.
So,
They're pacifists.
Pacifists.
all right.
They
Let's
look
talk
like
about
they're
this.
on a tour.
Do you already have a correction? Like I said earlier, it's very important that we state facts. Before we go, quick correction, 1 in 12 Americans are uninsured.
Just say Al was wrong.
Al was wrong.